Okay, self-responsibility. We are responsible for the quality of our kids. When we're in a relationship, we feel that the other person doesn't understand us. We're responsible for expressing our feelings to the best of our ability to express where we're coming from to the other individual, our boss or whoever it might be. No one's a mind reader. We're responsible for our personal happiness, deciding which values will govern our behavior. You know, on the RFM board, it's fairly common to see a thread from someone who's just left the church. Well, you know, what values, what morals and values should I use? What set should I use to govern my behavior by? And it is up to the individual. That's that whole psychological maturation process. And how do we go about that? Well, you just experience life. You know, you go out and you try something, and then you sit with the consequences of it. And obviously we have to exercise wisdom. You know, I'm not going to go off and start smoking meth. You know, why not? Because I've talked with people who the innate desire is not in me, but I know from an intellectual perspective that, you know, smoking meth is just not a good thing to do. But that's an important part of that individuation, psychological maturation process, to develop our own values. And what I find extraordinary is for people who have left the church in terms of, and they, you know, can be atheists or agnostics or subscribe to some sort of a spiritual tradition, but so very often their values are just so much more functional and healthy and higher than the values of a lot of Latter-day Saints. And that's an interesting reality to be aware of. And self-responsibility, we are responsible for improving our self-esteem and the quality of our life. And not too many more, just 3 more slides. Okay, self-assertiveness means standing up for ourselves, to be authentic in word and deed, to treat ourselves with respect. To treat ourselves with respect. It means honoring our wants, needs, and values and seeking appropriate forms of their expression. Self-assertiveness involves understanding that our lives do not belong to other people, and the cult of the family is such a significant part of the Mormon Church and the Mormon experience, where what the collective wants for you, what the collective believes, what the collective, what the group, what the community thinks you should be doing with your life as a woman, what you should be doing as a 19-year-old young man, what you should be doing as a 45-year-old single person. And it's just so important for us to live our lives fully by our own mind and judgments, because that's how we develop the reputation with ourselves that we can trust ourselves. How many Latter-day Saints do you know or have heard of that need to go running to the bishop to check, to find out what, you know, color the Lord wants me to paint my kitchen? And that's an example. That's a true example. We must develop a reputation with ourselves, with our mind, that we can fully trust our judgments. Self-assertiveness involves understanding that our lives do not belong to other people and that we do not exist to live up to their expectations. It involves unleashing our personality, which ties in with the comment that I said before. Intellectual abilities, talents, just so many aspects of what you are, what each one of us is. Next slide. Living purposefully. To live purposefully is to use our powers to achieve our goals. The power of our intellect, our physical power, the power of our personality, the power of our sensitivity. Something that I learned after leaving Mormonism is I'm actually quite a sensitive person. My mind is quite sensitive, and so that was a personal reality that I needed to embrace in myself. And you're gonna have something unique about yourself, a unique powers that we need to just fully embrace in order to live purposefully. We have the right to establish goals for ourselves based on what we think and feel is right and good for ourselves. It's part of that process of expressing ourselves fully as an individual. Whether anyone else approves of them or not, likes them or not, it truly doesn't matter. And how many times have we heard at conferences where people say, my wife gave me the final notice, basically, that that she's going to leave me simply because I've acted with integrity to myself, or it might be the husband, who's leaving with the kids. Living purposefully also involves taking responsibility for formulating our goals and purposes, identifying the actions required to achieve them, monitoring our behavior to check that it is in alignment with our objectives, and paying attention to outcomes. And last slide. The last practice of self-esteem is personal integrity, which I've talked about a fair bit. Integrity is the integration of ideals, convictions, standards, beliefs, and behavior. Acting with integrity to what we deem to be right for ourselves is the key to being happy and at peace, regardless of what is happening in the world external to us. Because ultimately, we cannot base our self-esteem on anything external to ourselves. We can't base it on our membership in the church, because the church is changing, and so that's being threatened in the lives of a lot of Latter-day Saints. We can't base it on our marital status, because our spouse might announce one day that they're out of the relationship, they're going to leave, or a boyfriend-girlfriend partnership, whatever it might be. We can't base it on our employment situation. Global economics, people being laid off. A former bishop of mine, 30 years, senior executive, Union Carbide, and got the notice. And psychologically, he had never contemplated that he would be one of those who would be caught up in a downsizing or changing operations, but it happened to him. So we cannot base our self-esteem on our employment or our academic credentials. We can't base it on our physical appearance. That might change. It might be in a car accident or something, and something might happen to us. We can't base it on our money, our possessions, natural disaster, or if something happens to a market overseas, and all our 401, what do you call them here in the States, your 401k? Yeah. Your retirement plan, maybe move down 10,000 or 10% overnight, because they, an overnight market, something catastrophic has happened over there. So we cannot base our self-esteem on those. When you think about it, it comes down to yourself. And once you reach that place psychologically, where your self-esteem just isn't based on anything external, it is incredibly empowering. Because you move into a place really of infinite possibilities, where you can do really just about anything that you want to, particularly in this society as fortunate as we are. Acting with integrity to the truth, including our personal truth, involves paying a price, which is sometimes high. To do so takes courage. There's sometimes quite a bit of courage, because there are unpleasant, life-changing consequences involved, and so it comes down to a choice.